Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world to share their insight and expertise so we can all grow together. I'm your host, Heidi, and the co-founder of the Spotlight to Scale Accelerator, where we help businesses drive revenue by making sure they're seen as the authority and go-to expert in their industry versus just another product and service. And today, I have the honor of being joined by Dan O'Reilly with Fuel Sales. So welcome, Dano.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
It's great to have you. So can you kick us off with letting us know, sharing with us who you are, about your company, and your role that you play within it?
Sure. My name's Dan O'Reilly. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Fuel Sales. Basically, the company kind of evolved over time, but right now what we do is the main focus of our company is supporting early stage folks that are interested in getting into sales. We have a boot camp where we train and develop salespeople and then help them find a job. And so part of the way that we do that as well is we support companies with outsourced lead generation. So the students that come into our program, they get an opportunity to practice what they have been taught by doing the work on the job, basically. So we have both ends of the market where we're supporting not only the students and helping them develop a career in sales, but also supporting companies and building leads and growing their businesses.
So not only do you train the students, but you also kind of you're a matchmaker too, where you bring the two together.
Yeah, we're kind of unique because of the fact that we do not charge students for the training in any way. It's kind of like on the job training. So we actually pay them to do the work that we have for the companies that we're working with. And so they come in with an idea that it'll take them a couple of months to go through this training. In early stage, when we were doing this academy, we started the academy back in 2018. It was basically free, but we ended up feeling like, man, we can't have people go through a training and spend so much time and really dedicate themselves to learning if they are not paid to do that. If they can't cover their bills, they're going to just be spending time trying to find another job. And so we ended up working with companies to develop that program where they could be paid to do that work, and that way they could practice in a great environment with a good group of people supporting them. And I'm not a big fan of just giving someone book knowledge in sales. It's just you can't read a book and then say, I can sell, I'm going to be great. You have to experience the intensity of what it really is when you get on the phone and you deal with the emotions and the rejection and things of that nature. And so we gave them that environment, and it helps them to really go, is this the right career for me? Do I really like this? Can I be good at this? And once they start showing success in a consistent way, then we have another group of companies that are looking to hire, and we pair them up and help them find a job.
Yeah, and sales isn't for everybody. I know
No.
we're always selling in every part of our life, whether you're in relationships or in business or whatever. At some point, like everything is sales, but not everybody's, good at that sales job for sure.
Yeah, I've always said that sales is such a foundational skill that people need to learn. And you can take that anywhere you go. You know, a lot of the people that have come to our program, if they are not successful in sales, they're still using the techniques that we've shared with them in a CSM role or within a marketing role or in a, recruiting role, things of that nature. But it's what we're training is how to communicate with people. How do you engage with another person, get them to open up and help? So.
Yeah, ask those questions, go deeper, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what inspired you, Dano, to start this?
Well, a couple of things. One, I started my own business back in 2016, and what I was focused on was helping early stage companies build their go-to-market strategy. I was training their sales teams. I was building these small businesses and saying, hey, this is the next step for your growth. And it was all about like, let's generate a predictive plan for you to scale. And part of that plan is always people, right? We've got to bring people in and put them into the roles. But what I was struggling with was finding good quality folks on the sales side uh, in order to fill those roles. We kept seeing a lot of churn, especially in the SDR position. So I build a plan, they're ready to grow, we start hiring, and it's slow. And so in 2018, that's when I started the academy. And the idea was I would basically train folks and have a pool of really good quality people that I could support these companies with. And it just evolved from there into a bigger thing.
Mm.
So
Well, I know that it's a very uh needed what's the word I'm looking for? Opportunity, because the way you do it is something I've never heard of before. And many people are just thrown into sales and they don't have the support. And I love
yeah.
that you're training them and also supporting them and they're getting paid in the process. And so that it's not just like if they're not if it's not the right fit, then it's you can support them in the rejection because that's a big piece of sales, right? Learning how to
Yeah.
overcome objections, getting rejected. Not all of us are good at taking that rejection. So I just love that you have that support and that component built in. So
Yeah.
let's talk about more of the components. What are the key components of an effective sales training program and how does Fuel Sales ensure long-term success for your students?
Well, what we're specifically focused on is we're going to focus on that sales development representative role. Okay. So if you think about sales the sales process in whole, they're just managing the first kind of prospecting piece of that, right? Which is, it's a very, very big part of sales is how do you get the door open, right? How do you have a really good conversation with somebody, learn about their challenges and move them into a meeting. And so that's a big part of it. I feel like all sales are pretty much won and lost in that early discovery. If they can gather enough information and they spend a lot of time in that, really doing the right things, the rest of the sales process goes really smooth. But to your point, like what are the pieces that are required for that to be a really strong opportunity for folks? Um, in my book, you really have to have the content around the processes that are required to be, how to execute in sales. But we've got to teach mindset to people. You talked about this early, like it's a hard job. It is a failure-based role. Like you've got to help people understand that you're going to fail more than you can succeed, no matter what level you get to in sales. And they have to realize that that's the situation they're going to be in. There's also a very negative feel of a salesperson out in the market. And so you do have to change your mindset and kind of fix this idea of, I don't want to bother anybody. I don't want to become the pest. I don't want to, they pull back and they don't want to engage. And so you got to teach that piece of it. So I feel like there's a good mix of the EQ skills that you have to generate with people and support them in developing, as well as the skills that it takes to execute in sales, just that knowledge of the sales process and the why behind what we do, right? There's a lot of, one of the things you mentioned earlier too, is that people don't get the support that they need.
Mm.
And there's a lot of people starting their sales career by just being handed a script and saying, read this. And they have no idea why they're saying the words that they're saying or what they're supposed to be doing with that. And they're just using the script and going, and then when they move to the next company, they can't translate those skills to the next company. And
Mm.
so a lot of what we're doing in there is we're teaching them how to think like a salesperson, not how to sell a product. It's
Mm.
how do you think like a salesperson? How do you think about solving people's problems? What do you need to know from people in order to be really effective and be a consultative salesperson, right? And then the other side of it is they absolutely need the reps. You
Mhm.
cannot just, like I said earlier, read a book and say, I'm good. I took a test. I know what to do in sales. They need a level of repetition in this in order to kind of perfect those skills and become successful. And so, in order to have that long-term success with somebody, it takes a lot of reps. It takes the work to do that, is to see the consistency. And we do see a lot of people dropping out because of that that intensity of that, the emotion that comes from that, the rejection that happens, and that the inability to manage that piece of it. And so, man, they're pretty excited about the knowledge they're gaining about how to sell and all this stuff. And then when they get into it, 3, 4 weeks down the road, they're just like, "Ugh, that's too much. I don't want to do this anymore." And so I think we're providing a service to help people realize probably not the best fit. So,
Yeah, in which I think is amazing. You're providing a service to go, this isn't for me or this is for me, and either
yeah,
way it's okay. And
right.
you'd rather learn it early than later on, right? And you have the support to catch you and say, okay, you know what, this really isn't for you. Let's,
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, like, and I tell this I say this all the time, like, if we're holding on to somebody to hold on to them, then it's doing both of us a disservice. Like,
right,
leaders make decisions quick, whether it's a fit, like with their team too. Like, listen, this isn't a fit. And it's
right,
okay because it's going to hold the company back, and it's also holding them back from really thriving in another place that they could be thriving.
right.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about, everything's about building relationship, understanding, like, it's not about necessarily the product, because the product's great,
Hmm.
but what is it going to solve this person's problem? Is it a fit for them? And that's where
Right.
you're getting to the root of it. You're going deeper and deeper, going, what is that pain point? And how is this going to solve the pain point that
Right.
person?
There's so many salespeople that come out and they want to push a product. They
Mhm.
want to say, look what I can do for you. I got all that. Look at the amazing things I can do. And that's just not how people buy. You
Yeah.
have to speak to the issue and the challenge and make the conversation about them and not about your product. Because if you can get to the bottom of the problem and the emotion around that problem, then the sale becomes a natural conversation that you're just having with them.
Absolutely.
So we all just know that emotion is the thing that actually drives the sales process or drives people to change.
Right.
So,
And the more urgent the need, the more likely they're going to take action on wanting to solve that need, solve that
right.
problem.
Absolutely.
And I've heard this, this is what helped me when I was, because, working with female entrepreneurs, when working with them,
Mhm.
a lot of them are like, I don't like to ask for money. And I'm like, if you are not selling, because I was taught this, if you're not selling, you're not serving. If you're not selling, somebody's not being helped and staying stuck. And your
Right.
goal as a human that wants to provide support to somebody in service is, if you're not selling them, they're staying stuck. And that's not our goal. We want to help people. And if you're not selling, then guess what? Somebody else is 5 minutes later, and chances are the product or the service they're selling is not as good as yours.
Right. Part of the mindset training that we do is around like stop thinking yourself as a salesperson, but a problem solver.
Yeah, so good.
And if you're going into these conversations worried about someone thinking you're a salesperson and worried about the feeling that that's going to create for somebody, it's more about, you've got something amazing over here that's going to create a much better experience for the people that you're engaging with. If
Mhm.
you can just find the people that have those problems, like just imagine what the impact of your engaging with them is going to do. And we're in the K-12 space, which means we're selling into schools and school districts. We only work with vendors that are trying to sell a product into the school or the school district. And so it's actually even more rewarding because a lot of the products that we're selling are actually directly impacting students and teachers and putting them in a better space, helping them to learn better, seeing student achievement rise and things like that. So if you're focused on that side of it and not, hey, I'm trying to get money from somebody or I'm trying to sell somebody a product, I feel like it works out a lot better. So,
Yeah, the ripple effect for what you do is just tremendous.
yeah.
Yeah, which is powerful. Yeah, and exciting. And when you're passionate and excited, everybody else has to follow. They can't help it.
Yeah.
So, it's contagious. What are some of the biggest mistakes, Dano, that you see new sales reps making, and how can they correct them?
Well, I get back to what I was saying earlier. A lot of the sales reps, the early sales reps, they feel like it's about the product.
Mhm.
And they do a lot of work trying to understand the product and push the features and push the ideas of what they can do, as opposed to spending the time to learn. Sales is about really learning about the other person and understanding the challenges that they face so that you have the ability to connect the dots better with your product. So if you just go really fast into guess what I can do and let me show you about our product, it's a turnoff to people. They push you away. But if you pull them in and say, I care about you, I have empathy for the situation that you're in. I want you to tell me more about that so I can make sure there's a good fit there. You're going to win a lot more deals. So
Mhm.
I think that's one of the bigger mistakes that people make is that they make it about the product and not about the customer.
Yeah. Again, going back to it's all about relationships
Hmm.
and caring, like you said, showing empathy and care for the other person on the other side of the phone or instead the other side of the computer, whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
Um, so sales is often a game of resilience. It's actually, in my
Hmm.
opinion, a full game of resilience. So how do you train sales professionals to stay motivated and handle rejection effectively?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. A lot of the being able to be in the right mindset to handle rejection, it is really what they need to do. And some people are just not equipped to do that. And it's a big part of how we lose a lot of folks is that they just can't get through that in that feeling of rejection.
Mhm.
The best we can do is talk about how sales is not a personal thing. And if you can take a step back and look at a day in the life of the person that you're reaching out to, it's when they engage with you and are negative to you, it has nothing to do with you. It has mostly to do with the situation that they're in at that moment. You have no idea whether or not somebody just was yelling at them, and they just had a bad experience with someone else, and then they pick up the phone to talk to you. And so, if you have the ability to detach from that kind of feeling personal about things go so much better, and you can deal with that a lot easier. It's a hard thing to do, and it takes a lot of reps to manage that and keep working with somebody and help them to see some of those things. But we have a really strong coaching staff
Mm.
that they're working with them one on one and helping them each day to come through that side of it and see, man, wasn't about you, wasn't about you, and if they can get them past that hump, then it works out really well.
Yeah, I think that's what I one thing I love about your company. There's many, but the what it's like you have community culture built in. Like you have that support, you have the coaching behind it.
Yeah.
So it's not like and you make it very open and comfortable for people to come in and say, hey, and get vulnerable, right? It's
Yeah.
important if you're going to grow in any capacity in any business, you have to be able to at some point get vulnerable because it's
Yeah.
not all rainbows and cherries on the way as you're growing and no matter what you're doing, whether you're learning something new or you're growing a business, you need to be able to get vulnerable at some points and get honest. And if you have you have someone there that will listen and support you without judgment, that's really powerful and
Yeah.
helpful, which
Yeah.
probably I'm sure some people that really probably wouldn't be salespeople actually are thriving in your program because you have that support.
I think you're probably right with that. I mean, one of the big reasons why I started when you were talking about inspiration with this too is that, I interviewed a lot of different sales folks and I just felt like, man, they're not getting the attention that they deserve. And I just picture how many people have left the sales profession that can be in an amazingly rewarding career for someone, but they're just not getting the attention, the coaching, the support that they need. And so we made sure that we had that support system in place to make sure that they do get that level of energy and attention. And day two of training is like, okay, we need to talk about how you receive feedback,
Mhm.
because we're going to be direct with our feedback, and but the environment that you're in is a safe place. The only thing we care about is your success. We're not here to criticize. We're not here to put you down. We're here to share with you the things that are going to help you improve. And if you take that with a mindset of like growth and wanting to learn, then great. But if you're always pushing back and in this mode of like, but I was going to say something else, but the reason I was, if you're going to fight with the feedback, it's
It
it's just
doesn't
not
work.
going to help you. Doesn't
Right.
work.
It doesn't
So,
work. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. So let's talk about technology a little bit.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's just getting bigger and evolving quickly, it seems like,
Yeah.
especially in the last couple of years in the public. I know it's been going on a lot behind the scenes, but in the public sector, especially in business, like all you hear about now is AI. So, how is AI transforming the way sales professionals are trained? And how do you see AI shaping the future of sales coaching?
I think it's become a pretty huge support piece for us. It's not going to take over anything for us in any way. This is a human interaction that needs to happen. But when it comes to like the SDR role, there's a lot of work that's done around messaging and creating the effective messaging. And I think AI has been helpful in the being able to kind of teach that tool to to pump out the right messaging for us based on a certain set of criteria. And so I think speed to generation of our messaging and the way that they want to approach a contact, the speed to learn. I mean, in the past, we'd have to spend so much time in connecting and digging through websites and learn. Now the tools are doing the digging for us, and we're just asking the questions. We're just saying, help me understand some of the biggest challenges these people are having. Just lists it out for us. Like,
Yeah.
great, okay. So the speed to gain knowledge about how we're going to connect with these folks in the best way has been super helpful. But I'll tell you, one of the biggest steps that we're seeing taken with AI in this space specifically is that you're beginning to start to see AI coaching come to life a little bit there, where we are currently using a tool that is an AI prospect. So you can say, hey, I want you to be the curriculum director at a school that has 5,000 students, at a district that has over 5,000 students and is in the Northeast. Um, and it will pull all the information that it needs to become that persona for you. And then your SDR can make phone calls to that bot and it will interact with them as if it was the
That's
persona,
really
answering
cool.
questions and engaging. And you find that that SDR is now in a low anxiety spot, role playing and practicing over and over again. They can do it anytime they want. Um, they do not have to make 30 calls to talk to one person. It answers the phone every single time they pick up, every single time they call it. And it has great conversations with them,
They're
right?
getting those reps in that you've been
They're
talking.
getting the reps,
Yeah.
right? But they also, as soon as that call is over, the methodology that we've created has been fed into this thing so that it then comes back and coaches them and says, in this part of the conversation, you might have wanted to do these things and you did a great job here, but here's an area where it can help you. And so they're getting instant feedback in certain areas. It's not always perfect, but you know, what we have been able to do in the past, before we had something like this, was hey, you get your 1 hour weekly meeting with your coach, and you get a chance to talk through the challenges, and they give you some feedback, and they've listened to your calls, and they give you direction, and then you apply that for a week. Well, now they can do it every day because they have so much connection with this thing, and they can, run through it multiple times and build their confidence, and they're growing faster down that path. So it's been a huge help.
That's incredible. I think that's an amazing tool, helpful for you all. It's probably way more efficient,
Mhm.
and it's also great for them. I know personally when I was learning sales that it was very intimidating and very uncomfortable to role play with another human.
Right.
So to role play with an AI, based on what you put in there for them,
Yeah.
and you can
Yeah.
switch it out and swap it up, and I just think that's amazing. And it does, like you said, it puts the person on the other side of it, the salesperson in training, at ease because it's not another human that they're looking at and
Right.
interacting
They
with.
can hang up any time on this person and not worry about it. Like, oh my gosh, I'm, you know, so,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So you are the CEO and founder of your
Yep.
company. So can you share what the daily responsibilities of what you do, what your role looks like?
Everything. No, no, it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot. I was a one-man show very early on, and I've worked very hard to kind of start putting people into place that can take over a lot of the things that I do, that I was doing in the past. But I have kind of limited now to I am focused on, I still do the payroll, I still do the finance side of the house. I still work on the sales side of the organization as well and manage all that piece of the house. But I'm more focused on what's the path moving forward? Where are we going? And trying to build that kind of direction for the company and give people that focus more.
You're the
So
visionary.
yeah, yeah. I was lucky enough to early in the company's lifespan find a pretty amazing COO. And he's grown up with me through this company and has really taken on a lot of the the work that is the day in and day out of managing the company. And I can't be more grateful for the fact that I was able to find that person to
Yeah.
free me up to be able to be the person who can then be in the business thinking about the future a little bit more. So,
So can we talk about that a little bit? Building a team around you,
mhm.
that's, an effective team. What would you suggest to a company that's maybe, they're not, they're in the growth, they're growing, but they're not where you all are at right now. What would be the key things that they should be focused on when deciding on when they're building team?
Ooh,
What's
that's a great question. I don't know if I can answer that question in a really good way.
Because you
I've had
found somebody
the
that's like you said you found somebody perfect. So that just opened
Yeah,
up, right?
I feel like I've had some luck shine on me a little bit through some of this, and not necessarily have a very prescribed way of doing things. I know exactly how you're supposed to go through a sales process, and I can prescribe that in a very good way to somebody. But when it comes to this, I think there's a lot of businesses that kind of, you know, fall their way through trying to figure these things out, and I don't think you can go unscathed through the hiring process and finding the right people and understanding who the right person is to come in. But you got to start looking at where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. And early on, you're doing all the things. And
Right,
it's like, what do I need to let go of that is the weakest thing that if I can let go of that, it's kind of a combination of what am I spending most of my time with that I'm
right,
not really good at,
right.
and start focusing there. That's at least how I did it. And I don't know if that's the absolute right way to do that or not, but that's how I fumbled through it myself, was to try to figure out those pieces and go, I need to release that to someone else. And I think one of the things that made a big change in me was the ability to start saying no to things. Like, I'm not going to do that anymore. Um, because even when you start to go, I'm going to hire this person, you keep your fingers all in there and you
Yeah,
keep your hands going, and you've got to get out and empower the people that you hire to do the work that you hired them for. You hired them for their expertise, let them do it.
yeah.
And so I had to learn that a little bit of like pulling back out of it and giving the reins up a bit.
Yeah,
So,
that's great advice. And it's so true. I know that's a big challenge for many people as they're growing and evolving and, and they're building team is you've been used to doing something and to give up that control of it and like go like, okay, here it is, but wait a minute, can they do it as
yeah,
well as I
it's your
did?
baby, you
Yeah,
know?
it's your baby, right? And you have to you got to let it go and let
Yeah.
people empower, like you said, empower them, give them ownership of what you hired them to do, what you brought them on to do, so they do feel team. You're building a culture of that trust and of that, like, here, this is yours.
Yeah.
Let me know, but this is yours. And then I'm sure you have those things put in place where, KPIs or certain things that everybody gets to meet and you come together and, and you get your feedback on based on that. But yeah, that's such good information. Like such a good answer. And thank you for being honest at the beginning, saying I don't know that I can answer that, but you answered it amazingly. So it was perfect. And you do have to fumble your way through. The growth is
Yeah.
a learning process. No matter what business you are, we're always growing and action brings clarity, right?
Yes.
By you said you've been blessed to like everything's just it's kind of unfolded nicely for you, but you took action. You started the company, you did a lot yourself, you took action. You're like, okay, now I need I need a who to fill
Hmm.
this piece, and you went out for it. And of course, when you take action, the people show up, right? The who's show
Yeah,
up.
I'm a big believer if you put your intentions out into the universe, things happen in a positive way for you. And so not everything has gone perfect and smooth. You learn through the mistakes. I think one of the other big things I learned before even starting this business, and I wish I would have learned it earlier, is not to fear failure. That action is more important. And if you hold back and don't do things, you're just never going to get anywhere. And so I wouldn't have started this business if I didn't feel that way, and that it's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes and not be perfect at all of this stuff, because through that you learn how to do the things the right way. So I'm always pushing the people on the team to be able to say, stop worrying about what other people are going to think or whether or not it's going to be right or wrong. It's like you're making your best decision with the information that you have. Let's go. let's do it. And if we fail, so what?
Mm.
It was a huge learning experience and we gained something from that. And so let's leverage that into the next thing that we do. So
Yeah. And that's part of the way that you're just shared that how you are and how you speak with your team and how supportive you are, that just shows the culture of the inside of the business, which you bring out to your clients and customers as well. So I talk about, failures and challenges. Not saying challenges are failures, but what challenges have you had? You don't have to name them all, but what are some of the challenges or one challenge you had in your growth journey that, and how did you overcome it?
yeah, I don't think we have time for me to share all of it. Yeah, yeah, we've run into our fair share of things when it comes to trying to figure this thing out. I think one of the big things that comes to mind is I think everybody had a big pivot point back in 2020.
Yeah.
Um, we had a completely different business plan and a different business model before COVID came along. I was training people in-house. We had a building where people were coming in and they were spending time being trained and they would move to the front of the house and make the phone calls from the front of the house. I only trained people out of Kansas City. We had plans on I was moving into a new space. I had signed a lease in March of 2020 to open up a bigger facility to bring more people in. We were looking at new cities to take our company's training program to grow in that manner, and then it shut down.
Yeah. Right in
I mean,
March.
I mean, it was just like, you can't do that anymore. It was like, what? We lost multiple clients overnight that were like, ooh, we can't do that anymore. You can't service us anymore. And we had to pivot really quickly. And if you think about the SDR position several years ago, um, nobody was doing that remotely. It was like you have to have a bullpen of people all in this, and they have to work off of each other. That's the way the SDR function works. And I believe the same thing back then. And it was like, how am I going to pull this off? How are we going to do this? And so I, we were able to make some changes with it and figure out how do you motivate people remotely? How do you find people that are going to work from their homes and execute on this? And it took several months for us to get back on track and moving, but I think for me looking back, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to us
Mhm.
because our business model flipped and we are now training people completely remotely. We have a smaller office. We have a staff of people that can support a large group of people that are all remote, and we get a higher quality of people because they have to be self-motivated. They have to be able to work on their own. And so I think all these little nuances that we have been able to change because of that we were forced to make an adjustment there made our product even better and made our situation even better. So I was like, man, we got can't believe we got out of that the way we did, but looking back, it's better than we were. So yeah.
Yeah, those many times those challenges turn out to be the things that we needed in order to get a different result that we would have never done had the challenge never arose. And you can now serve a larger group of audience because the growth would have been slower working from your Kansas City office and trying to expand into different markets
Right.
versus just going virtual from the get-go.
Hmm.
That's
Yep.
powerful because now you're changing more lives and you're
Yep.
able to affect more people in a positive way. So I have two more questions for you. If you could wave a magic wand, Dano, over one issue that you're having right now and just poof, it's fixed, what would that be?
Well, that's a great question. Um, I love the magic wand question. What would you fix? Um, you know, you know what? I don't have a good answer for that one.
Okay.
I really don't. We have minor things right now that I would make small adjustments to, but I think we've kind of hit our stride
Yeah.
and we're really in a very good place. And I'm looking at 2025 being a pretty awesome year for us with lots of positive change for us. But there's nothing that's like, man, I wish we didn't have to do this anymore, or I
Oh,
wish we
that's awesome.
none of that.
Oh,
I'm excited about getting into work every day. I'm happy with what we've produced. I love the people that we work with. So
Yeah.
So I wish I had something I
No, it's
could.
great. No, that's good. It's good that
Yeah.
you. So my final question is, if we were to come back in a year, you said you have big plans for 2025. If we were to come back, revisit this conversation, have you back on in a year from now, what would success look like for you in fuel sales?
Well, part of what we're trying to accomplish is we're trying to take a lot of what we're doing here in the US and potentially offer that outside of the US as well. So we've already began a little bit of work down there. And then the other piece of it is really I I want to be able to support one of the passions that I have has always been early stage companies. These founders that have amazing ideas, they're very product focused, and so they don't understand the sales side as much. And so when it comes to the work we're doing with our students, I want to be in a position, which I feel like we're going to be by the end of the year next year, to be able to like bring on companies, like pick a few companies that we can support at in almost like subsidize their work, almost like let me just do this for you
Mhm.
so that we can help you bring this product out to market in a good way. And so we want to be in a position where we can pick a couple of companies each year and kind of support them without the cost associated to it for them, and get them into a good place. So
Perfect.
if we can build the business the right way that we feel like we can over the next year and put all those pieces in place, we're going to be well positioned to be able to support those folks and
Yeah.
have people apply to get that for free for a period of time. So
Amazing. Well, Dan, how can people reach out to you? For those who are listening, they're like, I want to connect and learn more. How can they connect with you?
I would say the easiest way is to find me on LinkedIn, or you can email me. My email address is dano@gofuelsales.com. So those are the two easiest ways to connect with me.
Perfect. So reach out to Dano on LinkedIn. Also go to it is their website. Oh, you can go to the website, but you can also connect with him. What's your email again, Dan?
It's dano@gofuelsales.com.
Dano at gofuelsales.com. And we're also going to have all of Dan's contact information, his bio, all the goodness about Dano inside of our show notes. So you can always check them out there too. Dan, thank you so much for this. Is there anything that you want to say or share that I didn't ask you or touch on today?
Not really. This was a great conversation. I appreciate being on here, Heidi. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm grateful for your time. So thank you so much for doing this. Thank you all for listening. And if you've enjoyed Dano and I's conversation, you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, we would love a 5-star review. We'd also love for you to share it so more people can get the information and learn from Dano here with fuel sales. And if you're watching Dano and I on YouTube, please subscribe and let people know where you found us. And when you talk to Dano and you connect with them, please let them know that you heard him here at the Business Growth Spotlight podcast. So if you're looking to amp up and rev up your visibility, you want to be seen more and get more in front of your ideal clients and your audience, then go ahead and download our Spotlight to Scale blueprint. We'll show you exactly how to do it. And you can go to spotlighttoscale.com/blueprint to grab that. And again, reach out to Dano on LinkedIn or at his email, or you can go to the website and check him out there. So thank you again, Dano, for being here. It's been such a pleasure having you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you very
for
much,
listening.
Heidi.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to us on the Business Growth Spotlight, and we will see you on the next episode.